All right, I'm going to call to order the General Government Committee meeting for Wednesday, April 5th, 2017. And we'll go ahead and get started with the Greenwood Cemetery Committee annual report. And Kathy?
Yes.
Speak into your mic if you could.
Okay. I'm going to just do highlights of the annual report that everybody should have a copy of. We've done several things at the Greenwood Cemetery this year, and we have more things to do. One of the things we're working on is the welding department in the high school in Florence and in Canyon are making small crosses for us to put in the cemetery on graves that are not marked. So when it's through, there will be a lot of new crosses out there for those that have unmarked graves. We had, this last year, we had a nice ceremony out there on Memorial Day. We also had one honoring Captain John B. Russell, that we found his grave out there. We had another one on Veterans Day. We try to do a lot of things at the cemetery, and we have a lot of response. A lot of people come out to see what we have done out there. We're working on fence repair, tree removal, ditch repair, and maintenance. We're trying to keep the maintenance going on there so it doesn't look bad. So that's, if you'll look at your annual report that I gave you, you will see some of the other things that we have done. Now I'll turn it over to Carol.
Thank you, Kathy. Gentle persons of the council, thank you for having us come in. We would try to get in at least quarterly so that you know what's happening, because this is an active committee. We are busy all the time, and we have a lot of projects going on. I just talked to Mr. Brady, and he assured me that you opened the bids yesterday for our fence, and that is an exceptional thing. We are very happy that that's going to happen, and that money is going to be sure and go to the cause for which it was originally decided. We also are excited about the crosses. That was a cooperative effort with the Florence High School and the Canyon City High School. Thank you, City Council, for furnishing the money for the materials. And the high school boys are doing this in their welding classes. It's a community project for them, and they are invited into our ceremony on Memorial Day. We're hoping to have those high school boys and girls that were in welding class come out and appreciate our cemetery as much as we do. The Parks Director, thank you very much, Rex, for helping us get our fence project underway, and I understand that the contract will be awarded, and I'm sure that it will be done within a reasonable amount of time if they can get the ditch bank cleaned out, and that is up to him and the City Parks Department as far as I know. We have 2 or 3 projects that really are on our hearts. One of them is the sections need to be marked, and we have talked about this for, I'm sure, 10 years at least. And this is where right now we're thinking maybe the old section markers, which are a sandstone pyramid type looking thing, could be used, and we could have metal numbers put on those original corner markers so that people can find their way around. You would be amazed how many people come into that cemetery every single day. Anytime we're out there, somebody drives in and said, I'm looking for Uncle Ben. Do you know where he is? Now, luckily, the cemetery committee has furnished a burial registry at the kiosk there inside the gate, and if there is a name, it's in there. So we are helping people every day find Uncle Ben, which is really neat. The weeds and the rodents, it's always a problem. The rodents love to dig under the markers for some reason or other. And so also we're going to have to be very, very careful when we're doing our fence that we don't break down any of the old graves that are there and the things that happen when you're driving around those stones. I hope that they're very, very careful. I got a phone call today from a lady. I told my husband I didn't do that. The recipient of the flag during the Melby Smith ceremony last Memorial Day was Margie Schlabong. And she called me today and said, I'd like to make a donation to the cemetery. And I was very excited about that because we honored this lady's great-great-grandfather during that ceremony. His name was Melby Smith. So she is going to send us a check for $150, and we're running it through the finance office, so hopefully it will go into our line item as a Greenwood Cemetery money, which will give us another $150 to do with. So that also is why I'm very excited. Thank you, Preston, Mayor, that you attended our ceremony, Veterans Day. We were excited to have you there. I invite all of the council members to mark on your calendars on the Saturday before the ceremony, Saturday before Veterans Day, Saturday before Memorial Day, to come out and see what a great job we do honoring our pioneers and our veterans. I think probably that will do it for me unless you have questions.
I have one. How did you get those A-10s to fly over at the conclusion of your ceremony? That was impressive. Did you-
Magic.
did you-
I later asked
They-
Dick, I asked Dick Baker out at the airport, I said, where did they come from?
I don't-
And
yeah.
he said, I have no idea, probably Kirkland Air Force Base in California.
They-
And it was a God-directed flight.
Well, I was in the Air Force, so they were appreciating me being there as well.
Yeah.
That was impressive. It was right after, at time perfect. 3 of them in flight, flew low.
Seven
There were
planes went
seven,
over.
there were A-10s, the Warthog, and they were low altitude. And I thought, you guys really have a lot of pull.
Yes, we do.
You mean, you got the Air Force down here. That's
Exactly.
pretty
And
good. I couldn't do that, and I was in the Air Force.
And it still makes chills go up and down my back
It
when I
does.
think about, she
Yeah.
had just finished Amazing Grace on the bagpipes, and as those last notes faded away, you could hear the roar coming over
Yeah.
the mountains.
Wow.
It was fantastic.
What a
You were
ceremony.
right, Preston.
How are you going to double that next year?
No, we'll do it. You watch.
Thank you. That was great.
Any other questions or comments?
Jim?
Tony, whose responsibility is that tree?
Cemetery?
Right.
You know, we can address that through Rex's group.
Yeah, but I got the impression from somewhere that it was on the ditch.
It is. It's on the ditch bank.
So is
However,
it a ditch tree or is it our tree?
it is belonging to the Sauls next door. However, it impedes our fence. And so we have to deal with that in order to get our new fence up. We have a written permission from the Sauls to go on their property and clean up that fence row. I went to a Deweese Dye Ditch meeting and asked them if they would please clean it up, and they said, oh, sorry, we just take care of the ditch. It's just an easement through private property. And so then we went to the Sauls, and they said, oh, we can't afford it, and we have to have that cleaned up.
Any other comments?
I've just got one. With the unmarked graves that you were talking about, do you have the names and such for those graves? Just a curiosity thing. For me.
Many of them, many of them. We have 1,600 marked graves. There are 3,200 to 3,500 graves out there, and that is by count in the burial registry. And so many of those are named, and we can say, this is where Joe Blow is lying, but he could not afford a stone, the family could not, and we are going to place a cross there to show
I think that's so
that that is a grave.
So neat. Neat.
I may also comment that it may prevent people from driving across the open areas at the cemetery. That always just makes my hair stand on end when I see somebody start to drive across their graves. Those are all graves. And just because there's no marker, it's very, very disturbing.
Well, this is, like I said, it's amazing, you know, because I'm sure a lot of this dates back into the 18 and early 19s. Oh, that's so cool.
1865 was our first burial.
18 what?
65. But the city did not start keeping track of the people that are buried until 1876. So we had quite a few people put in the ground out there with no actual mark or record.
Right. That's neat. Thank you for what you guys do.
Jim, you look like you're,
Well, I'm back on the tree thing. Did that head nod mean, Tony, that we'll just throw that in with our trees and
We also have contract service providers. We'll deal with it.
get an approval from whoever the name of that land?
Sounds like the property owners have given approval to go on to their property. They just don't have the resource to actually cut the tree down, so
We'll just take it down.
We'll get it done.
Tony will come out and do it. He's got a chainsaw.
And Murphy will tote the sticks off.
Everybody's welcome.
And we'll follow up with you.
yeah. Well, I just want to commend you. Your group does a fabulous job out there. I see Ann Swim in the audience. She hasn't said anything, but I know she's been part of the cemetery committee for a very long time.
She
so-
probably helped with the first burial.
More than likely.
Sorry, Ann.
Yeah.
Ann and I go back a lot of years.
I know, Mark, you better watch out, you're in trouble. But, yeah, 16 years that the committee has been in effect after Cara Fisher got us all together. So we've been very diligent, and sometimes things go the way they should, and sometimes things don't. But right now, our master plan is our focus to get finished. It was actually contracted 4 years ago. And so, have you heard from Charisse? Anyone? Okay, we have been
Have
in
you?
contact with her.
All right. Well, again, thank you for everything you do, and thanks for coming and giving us an update today.
Thank you.
And you don't look a day over 49, do you?
Yeah.
Thanks, Dennis. Now I look like a heel.
She live in Florence? Charisse.
Yes, I did.
It's, all right, well, it looks like Lisa's ready. So we'll move on to the next item, which is the Rudd House update.
Yes, thank you. I do have a PowerPoint presentation. I know people love before and after pictures, and I have a few of them here of the Rudd House project. The roof has been repaired. On the left side, you can see the before. Shingles were coming out, coming off, and this is what it looks like afterwards. It looks really nice. They've done an amazing job. They also did the chimney. The chimneys were in bad need of repair, as well as they reconstructed the brickwork, the decorative brickwork, the capitals around that we have evidence of, but they had been taken down a long time ago. So they reconstructed those. And they did repair for the trim under, on the soffits and the fascia. You can see the work that they did, and the painting too. We did have a few issues that we came across during this project. Nothing's easy. One of the things that happened was during the bat mitigation, the contractors that we got for the bat mitigation, they sprayed silicone underneath the fascia there, and any excess that they had on their fingers, they wiped on the fascia that hadn't been painted. That caused issues with the painter having to come back and resand everything that he'd just sanded. And so that added an additional cost and more time to the project, but we did get that fixed. Another thing that came up during this project was adding more brick to the chimneys on top, and how that would impact the base of the chimneys in the basement. You can see on the left side the brickwork sort of deteriorating. That is the original brick. The State Historic Fund requested us to remove the cabinetry to investigate what the foundation was doing. That would have been the next phase of the restoration and rehabilitation of the Rudd House. Anyway, if we determined there was any issues with the foundation. So we had to go in, remove all the artifacts that were stored down there in the basement, find better locations for them, and then take off all the cabinetry work that had been installed in the basement, I want to say 1975, 1976, somewhere in there, to see what was happening with the walls and the foundation. We figured that there might have been plaster around the walls, covering up the original brick foundation or the stone foundation. We did some investigating. Once we got all the cabinetry walls down, we realized that there was an electrical outlet on the south wall installed. And from that, we were able to scope the wall to see if there was any original building material, the stone or the original brick or original stone of the foundation. What we were able to determine that in 1975, 1976, they had reinforced the walls with cinder blocks. Yeah, I have a great photo of that, and we scoped it too with a camera. It goes back quite a ways. With that reinforcement, there is no evidence of major cracking or anything that would require us to go in and fix the foundation at this time. So the next phase, we'd probably want to move on to the exterior. This is just cosmetic. What we think happened for this, what caused this was probably some sort of internal flooding. We're not quite sure when that happened exactly. It's eroding the plaster wall that they put around the original brick. This is a support wall. It's not a foundation wall. This is coming out of the chimney. And the other one, other support wall is also showing signs of surface damage, cosmetic. We had an architect look at it, our masonry, who was doing the chimney workups on the chimneys. He said it's basically cosmetic. It's pretty sound further back, so we can probably go on with what we were hoping to be phase 2 initially was the masonry work on the exterior. Over the years, the masonry work has been repaired using cement and not comparable material for historic buildings. We'd like to get that in place so it looks nicer, it looks historic. We do have evidence on right here. You can see it up on top underneath the fascia, or just below the fascia in the soffits. The masonry, the stonework is finished off, the joints. We have evidence of an early historic photograph of the house from that side that went all the way down the front facade. And we would like to do that if we can, make it look finished and more historic. The other part of phase 2 that we would like to go for a grant for is the porch. The porch is in really bad shape. We had a couple of workers up there painting and getting access to the roof from that porch. Some of them thought they were taking their life in their hands, standing on top of there. It's in, like I said, it's in bad shape. And we know throughout the years, a lot of people go up to the front door, use that porch for taking high school yearbook pictures, it's a hazard waiting to happen. It's an accident waiting to happen. You can see the base of the posts there, they're rotted. This is underneath, looking up underneath, there's this hole there. It's probably about that big. So that, we would definitely like to include that in phase 2. If we can, include the window repair. Definitely when we go for the pointing of the stone around the house, that would include around the windows too. And if we can include the window trim, fixing that, it's hard to see through those metal cages. Those were also installed in the 1976, 1975 rehabilitation, remodeling. It was for added security, but it's not historic by any means. The trick with the windows is if we can include it, the major concern is the pointing of the masonry and the porch. This might, depending on the cost, might delay it to phase 3. It's roughly, I want to say $4,000 to $5,000 per window for repair. That's what we're looking at. And we have 14 windows. So this is, yeah, I think in your packet, the historic photo, you can get access to this. It's at the Denver Public Library. This is the one that you can get and zoom in online and see the detail really well of the front facade. What we're planning on doing is applying for a State Historic Fund grant starting in October is the grant deadline. We'll probably start looking for estimates for that project in August. Guys have any questions?
It's amazing what's been done, and I invite everybody to walk around and look at it.
Yeah.
It's, I didn't even realize that was back there for
Yeah,
nearly a decade.
Yeah, yeah.
And
we're still waiting on
it's
the
amazing.
gutters and the chimney caps. We have a change order in place. We need to get signed and official. They're extending it to the end of this month. Hopefully they'll get the gutters in and the chimney caps by the end of this month. Yeah, this has been an interesting project. Another issue that has come up, our contractor that we had contracted to do this project, he passed away early January. And so it's his family that has taken over this project.
it wasn't the bricklayer, was it?
No.
Good. Is the mason that did the fire, the
chimneys?
chimney?
Yeah,
blah, blah, blah.
he's from
Is he
Salida.
Is he going to do the tuck pointing on the stone?
I don't know. He's told us that he's planning on retiring this year. So, well, yeah, we'll see.
Lisa,
Yes.
that picture on the right, I've never seen that before. The basement was actually exposed before and they've backfilled it?
Yes. And we finally figured it out, that was backfilled in 1975. When they did a major remodeling, they added the cement basement, they added the cinder block reinforced walls, and they filled in that I want to call it a daylight basement.
Yeah.
We just talked to one of the Martinez. The Martinez family lived in that house. He was a caretaker for the city. His son came into our museum not that long ago and said he still remembers the wooden floor in the basement. He remembers the doors, that it was a daylight basement. He even mentioned a tunnel. I don't know about that, but yeah. We want to do an oral history
Somehow I'm not
interview with him. For sure, but yeah, he remembered the wooden floors that were in the basement. I'm not quite sure when those wooden floors were installed. It's hard to imagine the Rudds having a wooden floor in the basement originally. They may have been installed in the teens and the 20s when the house was used as apartments.
Right.
So,
Jim?
There's a reference made a couple of times to cinder blocks.
yes,
Was it actual cinder block or concrete block?
it looks like cinder blocks, or concrete. I know there was a concrete plaster over everything. It's about that thick over the brick, even the original brick. It's sort of a cement plaster almost, and there's a actual lath, a metal lath over the original stone, or original brick support walls. But on the foundation walls, yeah, it took us a while to even chip into it. So the way it's sort of, when we scoped it, I have a picture. I didn't put it on the slide. The original picture I had was very blurry. Want to look at it and tell me what you think?
Well, there's just a structural difference between a cinder block and a concrete block. They look,
It could be, Here,
I
I'll
would
show
think
you.
that'd be one thing somebody would want to verify.
Cinder block.
Open that can of worms in terms of whether or not there's any original stonework still left. They could have, what they've done, either cinder block or cement block, whatever, on the interior side, and then on the back side or the external side before they backfilled, and they could have sandwiched the original stone, or they could have taken the original stone out completely. I don't know if we want to, at this time, since there's no evidence of structural issues with the foundation, if we want to open that can of worms.
Good point.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank
Yep.
you.
All right, we'll move on to the new next item. Tony, trash collection hours?
Yes, we've received some calls. We don't want to make a mountain of a molehill regarding early trash collection hours. I know the city several years ago revised the licensing section of trash collection, but they never addressed standards of operation, which is fairly traditional regarding these types of services. So we have representatives here from both Howard Disposal and Twin Enviro Service, and just want to get some feedback as to whether there is any interest to establish standards, because people, don't want to make it a bigger problem than it is, but they don't appreciate getting woken up at 5:40 in the morning.
All right, well, yeah. David Howard, do you want to come up and,
You stepped out for a second.
oh,
Okay.
all right, well,
So Twin Enviros can step up.
And Joel, you're on.
Yeah, here, he's back. Yeah.
I'm not
Give
sure
us
you
any
want to know.
feedback.
Hello. What am I up for?
you're going to tell us about hours of operation and your thoughts on 5:30 pickups, 5:30 a.m. pickups versus later times, or,
We normally start at 6. We tell our customers to have their trash out by 5:30. But up in Dawson, we start at 7.
simple as that, huh?
Was that?
That's, do you ever get out there earlier?
Their drivers do get out there earlier, but we discourage that.
It's, and do you have, like more commercial pickups early in the morning?
We do
or-
have commercial pickups, yes.
It's, I mean, do you stay, I guess the problem we're getting is complaints from residents. I just heard about this today. And, I mean, can you or do you schedule pickups in the commercial district like downtown or whatever in those early morning hours as opposed to cruising around the neighborhoods?
We do. We do, to divert the traffic, because the traffic is a problem.
Anybody have any questions for David before we get Joel up here?
Well, it's not necessarily a question, but more a question for council. I'm under the understanding we have a complaint from a resident. We just need to be careful that we're not automatically changing ordinances because of a single complaint. That's not to say that we shouldn't look at the whole concept of trash pickup and the policies we have, and maybe having some limitations, but we just need to be careful that we're not jumping out here to make a change based upon a single complaint, as I'm understanding it from a resident. We want to be respectful to all of our residents, but at the same point in time, we just need to keep in mind that that's one resident out of our community.
Yeah. All right. Well, Joel? I agree with your comment.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for letting me come and speak. My name is Joel McCoy, Operation Manager with Howard Disposal. A little history. I've been doing this 32 years. Bad choice, I guess. I don't know. But it has always been, have always started at 6 o'clock. The reason we start at 6 o'clock, in the summer, when it's 100 and some degrees outside, the guys want to get done and get home as early as possible. So if they start at 6, they would love to start earlier. We don't let them just because, you know, the fact of the noise. So usually by the time the guys get the trucks checked, started, they're en route anywhere from 6:30 to 7. I'm not a real stickler. I don't force them out real early. But in order to get started early, to get done earlier, to beat the heat. I don't know if you guys have ever hauled trash in the middle of summer and how hot it gets. It's rough. It's very rough. I started here with All Trash Service. If you've been around a while, you know Al Fortune was my brother-in-law. He owned that. I worked there for many years. I left to go to work for one of the big companies for about 9 years. Came back, started my own trash company, which was called All Canyon Disposal, which Mr. Troutman and Kathy, I think both of you were one of my customers, if I remember right. So it's always been a standard, start at 6, get done, beat the heat. As David had said, in the Dawson Ranch area, we had that complaint, so we moved it to the one driver to start at 7 o'clock that does that area. I think it was a while back, she did get started, that's my girl driver, she did get started a little early. I got on to her about that, so she hasn't done it since. So as long as I can remember, it's always been 6. Sometimes the commercial do start earlier, downtown, beat the traffic. Our two commercial drivers, they don't. They start at 6 like everybody else. But if you have any questions?
Frank?
Yeah, the only question I would have is, because you indicated that someone did call and complain, how many complaints, and this goes for both of you guys, how many complaints do you ever get? So basically, since you've been doing it, you've got
I've
one.
been doing this, the first time I've ever heard somebody complain about us being there early.
Okay. All right, thank you. And the reason for that is very important, based on what Mr. Meisner said. When we look at something, we need to look at it as totality, and with regards to anything that we would do and all that. Because I know a lot of people have a hard feeling with government moving in and changing things and stuff like that. So we got 1 and 1. Thank you very much.
Well, the 1 and 1 is the same.
Same one.
Oh, okay, all right.
Same one, yeah.
All right.
All right. Well, thanks, Joel.
Alrighty.
And then, Chris, I think you're out there. You didn't really want to say anything except you get started at 7 o'clock. Yeah. Okay. Well, I guess my take on this, I'm inclined to go along with what Jim and Frank have said, is it sounds like we have an individual complaint, and I don't think we want to build policy around single complaints.
I checked with City of Colorado Springs. The City of Colorado Springs allows commercial pickups to start at 4 a.m. and residential pickups to start at 6 a.m. One of the trash companies in the Vail area tells me that Vail limits starting the pickups to 7 o'clock. So fundamentally, I'm not opposed to having a limitation, but when you start looking out there, we're still talking about some relatively early hours. And the other thing I think we need to be cognizant of is, I work with a number of people that live in Canyon City that don't get up until 10 o'clock because they work from 2 o'clock to 11 o'clock. So their early morning is 11 o'clock. So no matter what time we have, with the number of people in any entity that work shifts, hospitals, nursing homes, corrections, police departments, we're always having people that are sleeping. Some of those people shouldn't be, but the point is, there is no good time of the day. And as most people know me, I'm not in favor of another regulation. If we need to do it to make our city better, I'm in favor, but I'm just not interested in moving forward at this stage.
One vocalized complaint in 30 years, I think, is
Yeah.
fairly minuscule.
All right, well, we'll remember we talked about it, and other than that, like Jim said, there's people sleeping all the time, so there's always somebody that's gonna be.
I personally don't want to take my trash to the dump, so I'll put up with the noise.
Yeah.
Okay,
Amen.
and the last item is council and staff updates. Council, do we have any updates?
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for doing what we don't want to do. We appreciate you.
All right, Tony, do you have any staff updates?
No,
All right,
I had something, but I don't know where it's at.
I'm sure you do.
all right, then, we're adjourned.
Very good. Thank you.